Hi guys, this is Liz from Invoke and I've got something very exciting planned for you today.
Please raise your hand if you have more than 100 friends connected with you on social media.
My special guest in studio tonight. Now, I got to get it right because apparently I didn't last time. Yoke. Is that right?
Yoke. Yes.
Yoke van Dam.
And as you step on stage, people hang on to every word you're saying.
And be mindful. When you're drinking coffee, soak in that experience. When you're sitting with someone, have a proper conversation and real human connection.
This is Yoke. She is from Y Connect. Today's video essentially is about conflict resolution, specifically how we deal with clients and when there's specific issues with clients, how our behavior influences the situation. So maybe you can share a little bit about that whole idea of conflict within the space where it's a client relationship.
Definitely. I do a lot of training on conflict resolution, and what often happens is a person will get upset. So let's say you're the photographer and you're going to go to a shoot. Potentially, some things are going to be in your control and some of it might be out of your control. And sometimes we expect people to read our minds. So I remember we were chatting the other day and you said a client was late and it was going to be during the golden hour.
Yes.
And my husband's a photographer himself, so he had to teach me that there's a certain time of the day that's better, it's better lighting.
Yes.
And she would take same for photos. But the lady arrived late and it's a factor outside of your control. People can be late, they can arrive at the wrong time, but if you don't then actually communicate upfront, this is the specific time you need to be there because of these reasons, they're not going to know that, So it's actually figuring out, and I know that we're going to put up a slide with factors in your control and out of your control. So some of it could, for instance, be the traffic. It could be if you have a child that you throw something out on you. There's a lot of factors outside of your control.
You newborn photographers will be aware of that. The amount of photographers that have told me that they've been peed on.
Serious?
Yes.
So how do you prepare for that? Should you actually take some wet cloths along? Should you take some, a change of outfit in case something happens?
Yes.
So like my main thing with conflict is it's actually about preparing for the situation, knowing what are the things that keep on frustrating you, that people keep on doing, that you could actually rather preempt to get the result that you want.
Yes. So one already mentioned has been your client arriving late. This happens quite often to me as well. And I generally allow for a little bit of a flexi time before and after my shoot. So in case my client is early, we can start early. And in case my client's late, we can start late. But even then, sometimes clients might arrive 30 minutes late and you might have another booking during the day and it throws things off. Another thing that's happened to me is the makeup artist arriving late, or not necessarily arriving late, but the client comes there late because the makeup took longer than expected. Specifically when it comes to couples shoots, even with weddings that happens where the bride is late for her own ceremony. So there's situations like that are beyond our control. We can't control it.
You can't control when it happens, but what you can do is you can start seeing a pattern and know that those things tend to happen with people. So how can you preempt it and actually brief the makeup artist? How can you give them a list of things that actually needs to happen at what times to actually allow whoever needs to be in the shoot to be on time or rather early? So time management is quite a big issue with most people.
So it's also pre-customer service.
Yes.
And not just serving your client, but serving your makeup artist.
Well, if you want to get the results, the ultimate results, you want to get the perfect lighting, the perfect shoot, you need to think of all the things that can go right and all the things that can go wrong, and you actually need to make a list of those and ask yourself, and that's where your locus of control comes in, where you actually say, how can I allow the right thing to happen? So if I want to be on time, what time should I get ready? Should I put my things out the previous day? Should I be charging my cameras the previous day? Should I send
Which
a
you're
reminder?
hopefully doing, by the way.
Sending a reminder to the client the previous day, sending them the location via WhatsApp. Are there specific things that you can do that can help people? I see that with training courses all the time. If you don't think of what can go wrong, people won't get to the place. Sometimes you need to send them the pin location of the building. Using technology to your advantage, right?
Exactly. And although you can maybe send an address, the location pin, we all have smartphones, it's easy to use.
Definitely.
So utilizing it.
So what kind of conflicts are you finding is happening in the photography space, Liz?
There's some specific, it might not be outright aggressive or violent conflict, but it's conflict nonetheless, where there's specific behaviors during a shoot and you don't normally know how to deal with that client. So I recently read on one of the community groups that a photographer said she had an issue with a couple's shoot where they brought their child along and the child was pulling their face. And that in turn made the mom uncomfortable, and the photographer felt that it was her fault.
So no, it's not your fault. But what you need to do, and this is something from NLP, which is called state management. So what we do with ourselves all the time, every time, like for instance for this video shoot, you need to be in a certain state. If you go and do a photography shoot, you need to get yourself to be upbeat, friendly, professional. So for some people it would mean having a cup of coffee, having a good shower, putting on their lipstick, their nice outfit, and then boom, they're playing a certain radio song for themselves, right? So what can you do to shift that child's state? Can you make a joke? Can you talk about something that can get him out of his negative frame of mind, that can actually address what's happening with him? Maybe he's got something in his shoe that's hurting him. So address what you're seeing on the person's face. Actually ask them, is something wrong? Can I help you? You know, we can only actually read what we're seeing. So 65% of what we read is actually body language. So the fact that he was pulling his face actually said much more than the words was coming out of his mouth, right? And it made everyone uncomfortable and changed the entire mood. And then there's like 30% your tone, and then 8% is only what you say. So can you read the body language of the person and address that, but in a respectful way? So the moment you go sarcastic or alarmed or whatever, it immediately triggers fight or flight mode, and that person becomes totally rattled. So it's up to you to make them feel calm, get into the vibe. So could there be some kind of relaxation exercises you give them to do beforehand? You know, can you get the child to maybe jump around a little bit? Is there something that can change his state? So to get him in the mood to actually have the right state on his face to be a good model.
So what tips do you have to get, whether it's a child or an adult, to be more interested? What can you do to get them to be more interested, other than things like letting your adult jump around, for instance, specifically in the adult space, I think. I think that comes from a place where clients might be a little bit more shy. In couple shoots, the men are always more shy. So I have my assistant that's generally hubby, who can joke around and make things lighter. What other techniques do you think?
If it's possible to maybe put an upbeat song on your phone and play that. Music is a very big state changer. So that's maybe with a child as well. I've noticed in my training that I can immediately change the state of the room. So they always say in training, you know, there's the graveyard shift. After lunch, everyone's eyes glazes over. And you probably see that with photography as well. At a certain stage, everyone's not in the mood to be in photos anymore. So what I do is I'll put on a Lion King track, or I'll put on something motivational like Chariots of Fire, or even Shakira's Waka Waka, and immediately people start clapping, they're walking in, they're upbeat, it actually changes their physiology.
Okay.
So that's something you can do. Another little trick which we use in public speaking is It's called the Amy Cuddy Power Poses. I'll quickly stand and show you. So if they're women, they can stand like this for 2 minutes. This is the Wonder Woman pose. Or you can get them to stand powerfully like this, or even like this. If there's a table, they could even put their feet on the table with their hands behind them.
I guess that's a great way for them to also just, you can bring humour into it. It doesn't have to be serious and make them feel awkward. You can play to your advantage and make them feel more relaxed being humorous about it.
Totally. So in public speaking, what I do, I was recently asked to do a talk at Saiga, and I only heard the day before, and I was quite stressed out. I spoke about it on the radio as well, and I literally went into the bathroom, did my power poses, and I felt myself feeling so much calmer. Okay. I had a few of my flashcards there. I imagined myself on the stage. I did this little visualization, and I was fine.
So perhaps if you're also a photographer that has that's an introvert or has difficulty with social situations,
definitely,
and you're photographing people, we can do those poses ourselves as well.
Definitely. And maybe even just doing a little visualization for yourself of you interacting with the clients, imagining how they're responding to you, you being confident and in a good state of mind.
Yes.
Because what you do is you actually create the picture in your mind, and then your mental memory actually kicks in. It's like a muscle that gets activated. And then you do that state. The state you imagine. But what we tend to do is we imagine that we're going to be stressed out and we're going to struggle to relate to the people, and then that's what's playing out in our mind. So you need to create a movie of what you want.
Okay.
And then that can actually happen.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you, Yoke. We're going to do a 2-part video with this. So this will be the part 1, that's speaking a little bit more towards the conflict side of the actual shoot and leading up to the shoot and what you can control and what you can't control. In summary, what I hear from you is that prime your client beforehand, prime the parties involved.
Definitely.
Like I always say, that you're the conductor of the orchestra, and if specifically where there's other parties involved, like a makeup artist, or even if it's a partner of a client that's coming to a shoot, prime them of what's expected, explain to them why it's important to be there at that specific time. And if things like weather issues happen, reschedule the shoot. That way you're still keeping to a good customer experience and you're avoiding conflict by being proactive.
Definitely.
And then another section of this video is about at the physical shoot, what is in your control? Can you remove yourself from the conflict that is happening and go back in and ask how you can assist and make the shoot the best shoot it can be? And maybe that's all the client wants to hear. They just want to hear that you're invested because they are paying you for this.
And can I end on a quote of Maya Angelou?
Please.
People will forget what you did. They'll forget what you said, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. So if that can guide you in all of your interactions, so you can make them feel better about your entire interaction, you will get much greater results.
That's one of my favorite quotes of all time. I love Maya Angelou. So I will be linking Yoke's business details and her social media details in the description below. Please go check her out. She's got some phenomenal content that she shares. She recently was on Mix FM, and her podcast is available on her social platform and on her website. So go have a listen to it, and I'll also put my own in as normal. And as always, be inspired and keep on evoking your creativity.